male and female. As a result, he underwent 16 operations and was raised a boy. He says for him, the real pain, the real tragedy, was that his doctors and his parents never told him. I'm Nancy Merrill. This is People Are Talking. Howard, the very first question is, how did you find out that you were born a hermaphrodite?
Well, I really didn't find out what was happening until I happened to be sitting in a lecture in a advanced abnormal psychology course at UCLA, and someone was delivering a lecture, and they mentioned a word that was familiar to me, which was the syndrome name that I had seen on my medical charts, and it's called hypospadias. And
Hyperspadias?
Hypospadias, yeah. And he had related that to the greater syndrome of hermaphroditism, and I walked up to him shaking after the lecture and said, you know, nobody's ever told me about this. This is the first time I've heard anybody talk about this openly. Where can I go read about it and find out?
And you read about it and you were convinced that you had this birth defect?
Oh, yeah.
Did you go to your parents then?
Oh, yes.
How do you confront them? What did you say?
I told them that I had heard this lecture and that I had heard the word hermaphrodite assigned to the thing that I knew that I was. And I think it's any good parent's wish to protect the child. And they denied it and denied it and denied it. But the more reading I did and the more confronting I did and the more writing I did, the less they were able to say that this wasn't a true thing, and the more they had to admit it.
Finally, why did they admit it to you?
Because my knowledge in the area surpassed theirs.
And did you go to the doctors at that time? Did you go back and check your medical records?
Yes. Yeah, I got copies of all my medical records and looked through things, and there were references made to that in the records that I had never seen before. I was a little surprised about as well.
You've undergone 16 operations as a child.
Mm-hmm.
What are your first memories of being operated on? I mean, what did the doctors say what was going on? How long were you in the hospital?
Well, hospitalizations usually ranged between 2 and 6 weeks, and they happened every summer. And I always asked doctors what was happening to me, and nurses, and anybody else who I thought I could get information from, and nobody was willing to give me any. It seems to be a touchy area. And they don't seem to be willing to tell the children what's happening to them.
Well, they had to give you some explanation why. I mean, here you are, obviously a bright kid. What did you say to them? Why am I going back into the hospital every summer, Mom and Dad?
Well, the problem was that there were leaks. They're called fistula. And along the surgical wounds that are created by the surgeries, leaks develop because of the force of the urine passing by the tissue. So I had to go have these leaks fixed all the time. But I didn't know why I had these leaks, or why none of the other kids had these leaks. And that was the question that I wanted to keep asking, and nobody would give me an answer to.
So you thought you had something wrong with the urinary tract?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was your life like as a child? Certainly not pleasant going in for 16 surgeries,
No.
but otherwise did it appear normal?
No, because I was always between surgeries, and the next surgery was always the important one. So I couldn't play hard, and I couldn't be like other little boys. And I had permission to do things that none of the other kids had permission to do, like get up and leave class whenever I wanted to. And I didn't use boys' or girls' bathrooms. I used faculty bathrooms.
Why?
Well, after surgeries, I might return to school with a catheter in place, which is the tube that goes into the bladder, and a collection sack strapped on my leg or carrying it in my hand. And I think it was probably the feeling of the faculty and administration that other little children would be traumatized by seeing me whip out this tube and leak it into the urinal or whatever. So I think they were trying to protect the other kids as well as protecting me from ridicule.
Well, what did that do to you, knowing that you had to go to the bathroom in, as you said, the faculty bathroom?
Well, it made me feel pretty much like, you know, a separate child. I wasn't like any other children.
How did the other kids treat you, though? I mean, were they sympathetic knowing that you were going through a lot of operations? They didn't know the truth about you.
The other kids didn't know.
Oh, you mean they didn't know that you kept having these operations?
I don't think so.
So how did they treat you?
Well, the boys treated me kind of like a weirdo, you know. I didn't have any boyfriends, and at that age you only have boyfriends. And my friends were girls because I could play with the girls at PE. I wasn't allowed to play with the boys at PE. And I jumped rope and played jacks and
that's really
all that other stuff.
traumatizing.
Yeah, it was pretty obnoxious.
How many children in your family?
Just 2.
What was the other child? What is the other
He's
child?
an older brother.
Was there anything wrong with him at birth?
No, he's normal.
All right. You know, during all this time you were, you couldn't identify whether you were male or female. Obviously you're in the faculty room, and but you're playing with girls. How did your mom and dad treat you?
I think they did a lot.